where there's protection for managers, you know, and it works both ways, not just managers who get sacked, but also managers who want to leave, and have a protection for managers where, in my opinion, they can only be sacked in the January window. Like, it's the only time when you can buy players, and the only time you can sack them is January window or at the end of the season. Why would I have players who, the Gerrards and the Carragers and people like that, want to go into management? Well, there's no protection for them, you know, they can't learn their trade.
A managerial transfer or sacking window. What do you think, Robbie?
Well, I write a few columns, and that's one of the things I said last year, that, we should see that, because when you see dismissal, when a club, takes a gamble on a manager, they've got a good manager. I think these managers need at least a year to get the side together, to have their... Michael Appleton didn't even have a pre-season. He couldn't get his methods across. What chance have managers got, especially young managers? So I think it's a worthy idea, most definitely, and I think a transfer window for managers, I think it should be. It protects managers, and if a chairman makes a decision, they have to stick with it for at least 6 months. That's still in managerial terms is a short period of time. So I think Paul Ince is speaking a lot of sense there.
Final question: who was going up with Cardiff if you were to have a stab at that now?
Well, there's a few contenders. Hull have done exceptionally well under Steve Bruce. Watford, they've got the Player of the Year in Vidra. They played some exciting football, under Zola. Crystal Palace, they got Glenn Murray scoring goals. I don't really know. It's just, lots of teams are losing games. There's no consistency. I think if Watford can put a run together, I think they'll be favourites. They've got a lot of players, obviously, from Udinese and Granada. They've used the loan system fantastically well. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. They haven't broke the rules. So I think Watford will have a fantastic chance. But, I worry, the team I'd like to see is obviously Leicester, but they've had such a wobble. I think they've only won one in... They went to... since they've been to Peterborough, I think they've only won 1 in 9 or 10 games, and I think Nigel Pearson under serious pressure, so... they need a couple of good results over Easter. Yeah,
to make matters worse for Leicester, Forest are going so well. Thank you very much indeed, Robbie. One other piece of football news to hand. Defender Brede Hangeland has just signed a new contract at Fulham, and that commits him to Fulham until the summer of 2015.
Gosh, 4 potential employers for Michael Appleton in one season.
Amazing, isn't it?
I hate to do his tax
return. He's actually been in charge of a team in the FA Cup. 3 different teams in the FA Cup.
Amazing. I hope he's got a good accountant with the complexity of his tax return this year. So many different employers. It's 5 Live Drive. It's 33 minutes past 6. Dominic Laurie and Ian Payne. Here's Orna, though, with the Easter weekend travel.
Yes, and we will keep you updated right across the Easter weekend. The M6 looking very busy today. Northbound, junction 14 at Stafford North. We had an accident, it has been cleared, but traffic is very busy heading towards Stoke-on-Trent on the M6 North. And again in Cheshire, the M6 on the northbound side at junction 19 at Knutsford. We had an accident which has been cleared, but the queues are backing up to junction 18 at Holmes Chapel.
You're listening to 5 Live Drive. It is 6:34 exactly.
On digital radio, digital TV, mobile and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the BBC News on 5 Live, I'm Rachel Hodges. For the first time in almost 2 weeks, banks in Cyprus have opened, although customers have only been allowed to withdraw €300. The banks closed when terms of an EU bailout were announced because of fears of a run on their reserves. Former South African President Nelson Mandela is said to be responding positively to treatment for a recurring lung infection. The current president, Jacob Zuma, has told the BBC the nation must not panic about the 94-year-old's health. Scotland Yard has passed a file of evidence linked to the Plebgate scandal to the Crown Prosecution Service. The former Cabinet Minister Andrew Mitchell resigned after being accused of insulting police officers in Downing Street, but there are now 2 separate inquiries into police conduct during the row. Journalists and technicians at the BBC are staging a 12-hour strike. Members of the NUJ and BECTU unions walked out in protest at job cuts and alleged bullying and harassment. And the Met Office says this month is on course to be the coldest March since 1962. As of 2 days ago, the mean temperature was just 2.5 Celsius, 3 degrees below average.
Coming up on 5 Live Drive.
Should electric car drivers get free perks like the right to park on yellow lines, an exemption from congestion charges in London, and free parking? Actually, I was just seeing a survey the other day. The worst modern invention, as voted by readers of something, was the Sinclair C5 electric car.
I used to live near the Sinclair C5 garage in London. No, and there were always people going around my house with this extraordinary white pedal car.
Bizarre. 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. Here's the sport with Will.
The organisation Football Against Racism in Europe have filed a complaint to FIFA today over alleged racist chanting by England fans directed towards Rio and Anton Ferdinand during last week's World Cup qualifying game against San Marino. More from our sports news reporter Richard Conway.
Football Against Racism in Europe campaign against and report on discrimination and have chosen to act following allegations of racist chants by England fans. The complaint is understood to centre on a song about the Manchester United defender Rio Ferdinand, who withdrew from Roy Hodgson's squad for the game, citing injury prevention concerns, before drawing criticism by flying to the Middle East to work as a TV pundit. His brother Anton, who was racially abused by Chelsea's John Terry during a match in 2011, was also allegedly targeted. The FA declined to comment this evening, saying they were still to receive notification of the report. But the matter now lies with FIFA, who could, if they uphold the complaint, either issue a fine or a harsher sporting penalty.
Arsenal midfielder Abu Diaby faces another 9 months out after tearing the anterior cruciate ligament in his left knee in training yesterday. The France international needs an operation. Paris Saint-Germain boss Carlo Ancelotti wants David Beckham to extend his contract at the club. Beckham joined PSG on a 5-month deal in January. League One Coventry have been deducted 10 points by the Football League after going into administration. They have 7 days to appeal. It now means they'll be 15 points off the playoffs. It relates to over a year's unpaid rent at the Ricoh Arena of £1.3 million. Andy Murray takes on Marin Cilic in the quarterfinals of the Miami Masters later this evening. On court now, though, is Maria Sharapova. Let's get the latest from David Law.
In fact, Sharapova has won and she's into the final. A little bit unfair, this one, really, because her opponent Jelena Jankovic finished her quarter-final match at 20-10 last night. She was out on court just about 14 hours later and she looked completely exhausted and lost 6-2, 6-1.
David, thank you. And Oscar Pistorius' agent says the World Athletics Championships are a possibility for the sprinter after a judge changed his bail conditions, with Pistorius awaiting trial for killing his girlfriend, allowing him to compete abroad. The IAAF have told us he can compete at the Worlds on the basis of innocent until proven guilty.
9 o'clock tonight. What have you got? Very briefly.
Everyone says 9:30. That's not going to give me a head start, is it?
It just says it on our schedule.
Tuning in halfway through, going, what the hell's
give
this?
people a chance to settle in.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, hang the DJ. It's 20 minutes almost to 7 o'clock, and we've been waiting to hear from the South African President Jacob Zuma. Wait no longer, because he's just done an interview with the BBC saying that Nelson Mandela is responding positively to treatment and that the nation must not panic. The President has been speaking to the BBC's Lerato Mbile.
Well, as it has been reported, he went to the hospital for checkup. I've been given a report that he's there. He's responding very well to the treatment, which is good news. Of course, I've been saying to people, we should bear in mind Madiba is no longer that young, and therefore, if he goes for checkups now and again, I don't think people must be alarmed about it. And I was saying, let us slow down the anxiety. He's responding very well, and he's in good hands, very good doctors, and I think all of that brings comfort to all of us. And I would like really to say the country must not panic. Madiba is fine, and would like to say to him, Diba, please get better quicker. We want to see you at home.
Obviously, you're getting reports. What can you tell us about his demeanor? We keep on hearing that he's conscious, but what does that mean exactly?
No. I think they're trying to make people to feel they shouldn't think that something has gone wrong, that he's still Madiba at that age. So to say, people must not be worried and think otherwise. That's what I think the people are trying to convey.
But it is fair for the public to be worried. He has a recurring lung infection in December that was complicated by a gallstone operation. Last year there was a stomach problem. His age withstanding, is this a time for us to be aware of what is inevitable?
Well, I would imagine so. And I think that's why people who would understand these things, that the age itself will tell you. You know, people who age, and I don't know, in other languages, in Zulu, there's a time when somebody passes away who's old. People say, he or she has gone home, ugodukile. I think that those are some of the things should be thinking about it. I know that we would want